Welcome to Pinnacle Performance Company's Fishbowl Friday with Pinnacle co-founder and COO G. Riley Mills and master instructor and editorial director Brad Lawrence.
Fishbowl Friday is back with a vengeance. I am Brad Lawrence. This is Gary Mills. We're with Pinnacle Performance Company. Gary, we got a fishbowl
What
on
are we
the
doing?
table.
Yeah, it's Fishbowl Friday. We got a fishbowl, a bunch of questions. We're going to answer one, talk about that topic, give you some insights, and then send you off into your weekend. Want me to draw?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, here we go. This question says, how can my company get better at creating a feedback culture?
Oh.
Okay, so feedback culture, that means they're not so great at feedback. So let's talk about feedback itself before we dive into some tools on how we can create that feedback culture and get better at it. Why is feedback important?
Well, I think, and you put me on the spot. I can't remember the exact stats, but a large, like 80+% of employees want more feedback.
Yeah.
People want to know how they're doing.
Yeah, it's a breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
Feedback is you can't progress, you can't develop, you can't get better without feedback. So your company, if you're saying they don't have a good feedback culture, that's not great. So you want to improve on that. So let's talk about how you can get better at feedback. First off, modeling.
Yes.
Is important. So as an owner, as a boss, as a CEO, as a manager, you've got to model getting feedback. So you should be reaching out constantly after your meetings, your presentations, your feedback sessions. How am I doing? How do you think that went? If you do that, your team members, your direct reports, they're going to see that and they're going to go, wow, the boss wants me to give them feedback. So then they'll probably ask for feedback as well. So modeling, I think, is the first thing.
So it's not all one direction.
Right. It
Always
shouldn't-
cascading down.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a bit old school where you would never give your boss feedback.
Yeah. I will say another thing that I think that's really important is making sure that feedback it's ongoing.
Love it.
And not a singular event. I'm sure maybe it's you out there in the audience, but I'm sure we all know people, or we've worked with companies where feedback is an annual thing. It happens one time a year.
And everybody hates it.
Yeah, you come into my office and it's about enduring it. It's
Yeah.
about surviving it. It's not an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
But if the feedback is happening throughout the year on a consistent basis, then it's not feared so much. It's not dreaded so much. It's a part of your culture,
Yeah.
like the question asks about.
Yeah. Another thing is, to Brad's point, make it timely. So if you're a boss giving feedback, you've got to make it timely so that that person has a chance to implement it, improve, and make those adjustments. You can't give them feedback a week before you let them go, a week before you fire them, a week before you give them their written warning. So give them feedback specific with enough time to implement it. So that's another one I would throw out. What
Yeah,
else?
I think varying it, I
Yeah.
think, is also important because not everybody likes to receive feedback in the same way. And I think that's why it's really important to get to know the people that
Yeah.
you're giving. And you may be able to ask them too, like,
Sure.
how would you prefer feedback? But it's not just always one-on-one conversations. It can be written. It can be anonymous. You can do like 360 evaluations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different services and ways to do feedback that aren't just tough conversations in an office.
I'm also a big fan of exploratory feedback, which is not just, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, this is not great. This is not where it needs to be. Because if you're hiring smart people, you want them to give themselves feedback. So I'm a big fan of exploratory feedback where I would say something like, all right, so that was your big presentation. I got to watch the full hour of it. How do you think it went? How did it go for you? Give me what you liked, give me what you didn't like, and let them give the feedback, answer that question first, and then you can fill in the blanks, you can give your thoughts. But having them give themselves feedback is very powerful.
Definitely. And I think it helps provide an anchor point for somebody else who's providing additional feedback to know, all right, where are they settled around? How do they think things went, so I can gauge where I should approach from.
What are some common mistakes that you've noticed people receiving feedback? What are some mistakes people make when they're getting feedback? I know some big ones.
I mean, being defensive, taking it personally.
Yeah, so getting defensive, that's the big one, right? Walls go up. I want to put my dukes up right away. You got to resist that. Take it in. Feedback is a gift. Look at it as a gift. They're giving you a gift. Don't get defensive. What was the other thing?
Taking it personally.
Yeah, don't take it personally. And that's another tool for delivering feedback. Keep it professional. Don't give feedback on personal things. Don't slide little digs in or passive aggressive things because that's going to derail the whole thing. Make it specific. Make the specific
Yes.
specific and actionable so they can actually make an improvement versus just, you're just not doing as well as I want you to do. Well, I don't know what that means.
And
What am I
the
supposed to
timely
do?
thing you said earlier, I think,
Yeah.
is also really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've given tough feedback to a lot of people, and I try to build in a buffer between the next time we talk about this. Like, take this home tonight and think
Yeah.
about it, and we'll talk about this either next week or in
Yeah.
a couple days from now, to give them a time to process it, because those initial responses can be pretty charged.
Yeah, and if you're the boss giving the feedback, or if you're the person giving the tough, to Brad's point, the tough feedback, one of the things you can do is, before you give it, turn it around and go, if I were getting this feedback, how would I feel? The way you're phrasing it, the way you're laying out the feedback to this person, is there a way you can, just from an empathetic level as a leader, is there something you can do to soften it if it needs to, or just to make it a little easier to digest? So think about how you would receive it and then make those adjustments as you're delivering it.
Sounds great.
That is your tip and tools for the feedback culture that you want to create at this company. Get out there and do it. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you next week.
If you'd like to submit a question for the Fishbowl, drop us an email at fishbowl@pinper.com. If you'd like to learn more about Pinnacle Performance Company, email us at info@pinper.com. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and tell your friends. See you next week.